All right. So thank you so much for being here. If you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Excuse me real quick.
Sure.
I'm having to drink something. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries.
I don't know if you want to make another cut but
Yeah,
um,
we can edit down.
okay. My name's William Fitzpatrick, actually Bebo Fitzpatrick. I've been called Bebo since the day I was born, and I am currently a 737 captain with Southwest Airlines. I've been there since April of 2006, and one of the reasons I'm at Southwest was because of the events of 9/11. I was at American Airlines on the day that 9/11 happened, and I found out about 9/11 or the events of that day. The second plane had already hit the towers, and I was in Reno, Nevada, and we were at the gate, and it was our first flight of the day. I remember this day. I mean, of course, everyone remembers it, but I remember the day prior because I was in the process of building a house in Dallas, Texas. I was living in Birmingham, but I was commuting to Dallas, and I was going to move to Dallas eventually. And I had, let me think. I had just put money down on a house, and I was really, really excited to move, and my career was finally moving in the right direction. And I gotten a call from crew scheduling, and I was on call. I was on reserve, which means I didn't have a flight or a hard schedule, but I was basically on call where they would call us if need be, like someone calls in sick, or a flight's delayed and a crew misconnects, or there could be a myriad of reasons why you get called out on a trip.
Sure.
And so I got a call the day prior on the 10th, and they said, we have a really easy trip for you. We want you to fly from Dallas Fort Worth to Reno, Nevada, spend the night, and then fly back the next day. Okay, great. So we flew to Reno. I had a great crew. We had a lot of fun. We went out that night and had dinner. And the next day, we get to the aircraft. We do all our pre-flight checks. And then another captain comes on board and sticks his head in the cockpit and says, hey, guys, just wanted to let you know 2 aircraft have flown into the World Trade Center. And the guy I'm flying with and myself, we both looked over at him like, is this some sort of sick joke? I mean, what are you talking about? And he said, no, I'm being serious. 2 planes have flown into the World Trade Center, and we think that they might shut the airspace down. So at that point, I called ground control, and because we had a full plane of people and we were about to push off the gate, and I said, we're hearing word that there might be an issue and that they might close down the airspace. And the ground controller said, you're correct. There has been a nationwide ground stop. No aircraft can move except for military aircraft, and it's an indefinite ground stop. We don't know what to tell you. And so we're kind of in shock. It's
Sure.
It was almost like time kind of stood still for a minute. And I remember a flight attendant, a new flight attendant, running up and telling me one of those aircraft was an American Airlines aircraft. And at that point I said, okay, this is how rumors get started. There's no way that was a commercial airliner that flew into that building. And so she said, I'm hearing word it was Flight 11 out of Boston. And so I run down to our operations, because now we make an announcement to the people and we say there's been a nationwide ground stop. We can't push off the gate. We can't, when my dog wants to get in on this, we can't we can't push off the gate. We can't, we're not going to be able to fly to DFW. And of course, no one has smartphones.
Sure.
Remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's so
so,
weird, but
yeah. So when we make the announcement, everyone goes, not nuts, but everyone got really upset saying, well, I've got a meeting and, you know, I've got plans and this and that. So all the passengers are upset and we're trying to talk to them and say, we'll get word to you when we can. So in the meantime, I run down to our operations and I log into the company computer and I pull up flight 11 out of Boston. And the flight was locked. Usually you can pull up a flight and you can pull up the crew list. So you can find out who the captain is, the first officer, the flight attendants. You can see who's on that trip. And it was
right.
locked where they wouldn't let you see the crew.
Yeah.
That immediately told me it was flight 11 out of Boston because they only do that during an accident.
Yeah.
A fatal accident usually, because they don't want people to find out who was on the airplane and then contact the family or whatever.
Right.
So now I know this is really serious. So then I turn on the TV and both towers are in flames. And we got on, the captain and I was a brand new co-pilot at American. I'd been there less than a year. The captain and I said, we've got to get back to the hotel because we're not going anywhere and we don't want to lose our room because we're going to be here for a while. And so we got back to the hotel, and by the time we had gotten back, both towers had fallen. So I didn't really see anything live. I didn't see the towers fall. I didn't see the aircraft hit. And when I got back to the hotel, they had fallen, and now it's just almost pandemonium. What is going on, and what are we going to do? So we sat there for 5 days. We weren't able to fly for 5 days, and we basically, it was probably 5 of the worst days of my life because I just sat there. Because after the initial shock of us being under a terrorist attack, selfishly, my next thought was, I'm going to lose my job. This is an impact to the airline industry the likes no one has ever seen.
Right.
And I'm going to lose my job, and everything I've worked so hard for the last, you know, ever since I've been in college is now gone. And then it just got, I mean, and not that this has anything to do with 9/11, but a month later, and people probably don't remember this, but we also had another fatal accident out of JFK with an Airbus A300, but that was a mechanical, well, it was a pilot error, and another fatal accident that happened, which just really compounded everything.
Right.
But for the next 2 to 3 years were just probably the worst 2 to 3 years of my life, because going back to 9/11, and it was just the airline industry, as I guess we've recovered, but there's still a nasty wound that we're still having to deal with to this day. It's almost like the whole country, in a sense, lost its innocence on that day.
Yeah, for sure.
It was very it was my life pre 9/11, and then my life post 9/11. And thankfully I've been able to overcome professionally and get over that just awful day, that awful period in my life. But it's like a wound that'll probably not totally heal.
Sure.
Because before I was with American, I was with Continental Express. We were the regional carrier for Continental, Continental was eventually bought by United, and I was based in Newark, New Jersey, which is across, you know, if you know New York very well, it's on the other side of the Hudson. So it's kind of like, you know, Mountain Brook and Vestavia.
Right.
You can be in one part and not, are we in Vestavia? Are we in Mountain Brook? Or are we in Homewood? I mean, they're all kind of go together. And so I was pretty much up in New York City for about 2.5 years. So I kind of got to know the city and the people, and I really enjoyed being there. It's a great city. And so I kind of felt like part of me, that's where I kind of cut my teeth into becoming
Hmm.
an airline pilot. And to see what happened on that day and to see how it affected the people of New York and the city, I I can't even put it into words. It completely rocked that city to its absolute core, and just what it did to the people of New York City and the businesses and just the whole psychology of what happened was just, I can't even really put it into words. It's
Hmm.
it's it's almost like you can't explain it unless you were there or
Yeah.
saw it. I mean, we've all got our intimate feelings of what happened that day, but uh, it, being, and I don't want to say someone's experience is more or less impactful than someone else, but when you fly for an airline that was a part of it, and your company and the aircraft that you flew was used as a weapon of mass destruction,
Yeah.
and you're, not only was the country under attack, but my airline was under attack.
Right. Yeah.
And I felt that there was, for a while, the pilots floated the question of, did they use American Airlines airplanes because it has American written on the side?
Hmm.
Is
Yeah.
that why? Because they're red, white, and blue. Um, and so it, I didn't. I started to question: did I make the right choice in going to American Airlines? Do terrorists want to destroy this airline because it's a symbol of the USA? Just
Yeah.
flooded with
Sure.
emotions. And then on top of that, everything changed in the work environment. Uh, Before, we were told, we used to be trained this way. We were told, just give the hijackers what they want. If your
Hmm.
aircraft is ever hijacked, they usually want political prisoners released. They want to divert to Cuba, and they want to make a statement.
Hmm.
It was never, they want to use that aircraft
Yeah.
to kill people, to actually use it as a missile and destroy things. And it I always, when we would go through the training, security training, I would always think to myself, giving the hijackers what they want just doesn't sound right.
Right. Sure.
It just doesn't sound like that's the way to go, but that's how we were trained. And after that, everything changed to where passengers and crew members would be much more passive. From that day on, especially the first year or two, we would have passengers, especially bigger passengers, would tend to come up to the cockpit and say, if anything happens, I'm back here.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let anyone take over this airplane, which is, we appreciated that as crew members, knowing
Sure.
that passengers had our backs,
Hmm.
literally. And then it changed in the sense that we had magnetized door locks. We had crew members who, if they went through the specific training, could carry firearms in the cockpit, which we have to this day.
Hmm.
We had a much bigger presence of federal air marshals on board, which pre 9/11 you would almost never see an air marshal.
Hmm.
Now it's a much more common occurrence. It's
Yeah.
it's not odd to have air marshals on your flight. So from that standpoint, the innocence was lost, but I think we reacted to it the best way we could.
Sure.
I know
Yeah.
I'm rambling.
No, you're great. I mean, it's really, really fascinating, and it's a perspective that we've lacked in these interviews. Most of the stuff the folks we've talked to have been from fire department and getting that perspective, but to have kind of that insider look from the airline industry is huge.
Well, it's when you're an airline pilot, it's you sometimes you forget the massive responsibility that you have.
Mhm.
Not only do you have, I was told recently that the average airline crew or the pilots up front carry about $2 billion in responsibility between the aircraft and liability and loss of life and everything.
Mhm.
$2 billion.
Yeah.
And so you accept that responsibility. It's very humbling.
Mhm.
It's very humbling for me, especially, I don't know why this kind of makes me a little bit emotional, but when a mother gets on the airplane and she's holding a newborn baby,
Mhm.
I don't know what it is about that, but it always really touches me that someone will have a newborn baby and get on my aircraft and trust that I am going to protect not only the mother but the child, the newborn baby. I don't know why. I get emotional when I see newborns on the aircraft.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it's
so you
huge.
have a tremendous amount of responsibility. So and that's just everyday flying. We call them threats. You always have threats. You have weather threats. You have pilot error threats. You have all these threats that are coming at you that you're always trying to make sure you manage. I
Mhm.
mean, in life, there's risk. You get into your car, you're taking a risk.
Sure.
You drive from your home to work, you're taking a risk. But you do what you can to mitigate those risks.
Right.
Your car is maintained. You wear your seatbelt. You don't speed. You know everything that the normal person does to mitigate risk. You do, and we do the same thing in the cockpit. We do the same thing in the airplane. This added a gigantic new threat. The
Right.
threat was there in the 60s and 70s. Hijacking became a political tool that people used, and we knew it was there, but we really didn't take it that seriously. We said
Right.
the airline said they did, but I don't think they did. And that day was a really nasty wake up call.
Yeah.
And so now we've got this added threat. And in addition to that, the financial industry is now bleeding money.
Mhm.
It was bad before 9/11. It was getting bad, but all the airlines were trying to grab market share and they were willing to take a loss in the process. So American Airlines was losing money
Mhm.
up until 9/11, but they were saying, hey, we're losing money now, but we're investing in our future. And in a couple of years, we're going to make that back and then some. Well, 9/11 happened, and now it's getting really bad. And so now the pilots and the crews are having, in the ground crews and the ramp personnel and everyone at American Airlines or any airline that I can think of, now we have the added financial threat of, are we going to be able to stay in business?
Yeah.
And so in addition to that, you have crews, you have pilots who are being downgraded, you have pilots who are being furloughed, losing their jobs, you have all sorts of, I mean, for the 2 years that I lasted at American before I lost my job, we could not get any good luck. And at one point, American Airlines was averaging one pilot suicide a month
Oh my God.
because you had pilots who had finally kind of arrived. You have a pilot who spent 10, 15 years in the military, and now he's gone to the airlines and he's finally upgraded to a Boeing 777, and he's finally making decent money. And in the blink of an eye, he's downgraded to co-pilot, and then we take a big pay cut to help keep the company in business. And you have you have pilots whose income has been cut by 60%,
Yeah, yeah,
and they can't survive anymore on that such drastic reduction
sure.
in income. And so it was just a perfect storm of misery. And it was just, I just can't even describe it. It was honestly the worst couple of years of my life. And I've come out stronger on the other side, but it really, I'll never get over, I'll never get over that.
Yeah,
The psychological damage that a lot of pilots and crew members have had to endure through that is it's been a lot. It's
yeah,
tough.
yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and I've never really considered all that y'all were carrying. So thank you for sticking with it and for looking out for us up there.
Well, it's when you become an airline pilot or a flight attendant, and that's how you make your living. It once it gets into your blood, you either love it or you hate it. The people
Yeah,
who love it can't do anything else, and the people that hate it can't get away from it fast enough. But I became an airline pilot at 25 years old, and it's pretty much all I know. And so I love it. It's my calling, it's my career, it's my passion. I'm lucky enough to be in a line of work that I truly I love what I do. And that's another, now that you mention it, that's something that really upset me, because they wanted to take that joy and happiness away from me.
mm-hmm.
Because for a while, people didn't want to fly, people didn't want to go to work. uh, uh for us, people didn't want to go to work because they were scared.
Sure.
And I just finally told myself, I'm not going to allow them to prevent me from doing what I love.
Yeah,
And if if un if I'm ever in that situation where they try to do this again, I'll fight like heck to stop it. I won't allow it to happen, but I'm not going to let them take away my joy and my passion in my career. And so I made a commitment to myself, and luckily I've landed on my feet again, and I was hired at Southwest Airlines a couple of years later after I was furloughed, a polite way for saying laid off
right.
from American back in 2003 due to the financial burden that they were under. I was recalled. They called me back about 5 or 6 years later and said, "Hey, we would like for you to come back. It's your turn now." And I opted to stay at Southwest because I
Yeah,
love the company. It's an amazing company, amazing culture. It's just I really fit in well there. So I wish American Airlines the best, but it it it's kind of it's kind of a flood of emotions now thinking back
sure, sure.
over this, because it was just such a I was at the peak. I had finally arrived to get hired by like American Airlines, Delta Airlines, United, a couple of the others. Was like going to the New York Yankees.
Sure.
I'm like at the Birmingham Barons playing minor league ball, and I get
Yeah,
called up to the big leagues.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden I get to the big leagues, and it's going to be taken
yeah,
away
yeah.
from
It's
me.
yanked out from under you.
And when I was furloughed from American and lost my job, there were thousands of airline pilots looking for work, and I had to go into a different job altogether because I couldn't find a flying job. So I got my father pulled some strings for me, and I got a job in medical sales for a year,
Yeah,
because I had to put food on the table.
sure.
And luckily, I was able to get a job later on flying charter. And then I flew. I was a corporate pilot for a couple of years before I came. I was able to get on with Southwest, but uh, it it just really rocked my world in about every way possible.
Yeah, yeah. That's huge. Well, what would you like to say to people, like as takeaways from that time? And looking forward, what you want them to remember or know.
Well, it was such a devastating blow to the entire industry, but I really do think the industry, even though, as I said, we lost our innocence, we were able to respond wiser, stronger. The security protocols in place, while not perfect, are way better than they were before. Uh, the the TSA, while not perfect, is way better than what we had before. The cargo screening and the luggage screening, while not
Hmm.
perfect, is way better than what we had before. So the whole system has become stronger. It's like breaking a bone
Hmm.
and it mends back and it's stronger. It's the same way here. I think the industry as a whole has done its best and is done a lot of filling in the gaps of the security issues we had in the past.
Hmm.
While not perfect, it is much better. The crews are much better trained to handle these situations. The security protocols on the aircraft are much better than what they were. So all in all, I mean, we've gone 20 years without a
Yeah.
major incident since, and there's been attempts. There's some I can talk about and some I can't talk about because of the security protocols in place. But there have been attempts, and there's been a little bit of luck, and due to a lot of training and security protocols in place, we've stopped those. So all in all, while a lot of these, not bringing liquids in and uh, a bunch of the other issues that our passengers can kind of groan about,
Sure.
it's there for a reason. And I know going through security these days can be a little bit more of a hassle, but again, that's for good reason.
Yeah.
And I think the TSA does the best job they can to try to offer convenience of getting through the security process, but at the same time being very thorough. And I think
Yeah.
they do a good job with that. But basically, if I was to tell anyone anything, I think that as horrible of a day as that was, and such a devastating blow to the entire industry, we are stronger because of it. We're wiser, we're stronger, we're uh, certainly not going to allow something like that to ever happen again,
Yeah.
because the crews just aren't going to stand for it.
Well, that's fantastic.
Everyone in place is we're always doing what we can to make sure, to the best of our ability, that our passengers and cargo arrive to their destination on time, if we can, safely. Safety is always the number one priority.
Sure.
But after going through that and experiencing that, I think our safety wise, the USA airline infrastructure is the envy of the world. It's the
Yeah.
best. We have the best controllers, we have the best pilots, we have the best dispatchers, we have the best flight attendants, we have the best mechanics, and there's a reason for that. And I, unfortunately, part of that reason is due to 9/11. As painful as that was, it made
Sure.
us better.
Yeah. Well, very well done, my friend. I sure appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. So there'll be a 9/11 commemoration here in Crestline on Saturday morning at 8:30. So
Okay.
we're going to have elements of the videos playing in the meeting room at the library while that's going
Okay.
on, and so if you're out and about that early on a Saturday morning, come on down and check it
I'll
out.
come by. I'm on reserve. I'm on call Saturday morning. So if I get called in, I have to go. But if not, if I don't get called, I'll be there.
Yeah, it'd be great to see you. I sure appreciate you. And I'll send you. Can you send me your email address just through
Sure,
Messenger, and
sure.
I'll send you a waiver just that it's okay for
Okay.
us to do the
Yeah.
video.
Yeah. I just hope I could get. I was able to give you something that you
Yeah.
can
Oh my
use.
God, it's fantastic. Yeah, and
Okay.
it's so great to see you, Bebo. I mean, good
Yeah.
Lord, it's
Likewise.
30 years.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy. I blink my eye and I'm almost 50. It's
yeah,
just is
I'm
insane.
past
So
it.
yeah. So and I mean, I got remarried and I married Tracy James, who she was a year younger than me, or is a year younger than me.
Yeah.
And you had graduated before she came to Mountain Brook High School, but so it's we keep in touch with people we went to school
Sure.
with, and it's crazy how things have. We went to my 30th reunion got pushed back a year due to
Yeah.
COVID last year, and then so she had hers this year, so we had back-to-back reunions, and it's insane.
It's
Yeah, I
wild.
mean, it's just like I blink my eyes and I'm almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, and it's where's the time gone?
It's really bizarre.
Youth truly is wasted on the
Oh
young.
my God, so much.
I mean, I'm trying to explain to my kids, enjoy this time. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, and they just kind of roll their eyes. Yeah, Dad, whatever. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, before you know it, you're going to be almost 50, going, where's the
Right.
time gone?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely. Well,
yeah,
thanks so much, my friend. I look forward to
yeah.
seeing you, and I appreciate you doing this for us.
All right, I'm happy to help.
All right. Take care, my
All
friend.
right, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.